Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining Chamber Chat today. We are excited to bring you information that you can use to help your business survive the coronavirus pandemic time. We're all working together here in Houston to make sure that we do the very best we can for each of our neighbors. So today, we are very, very happy to welcome the Executive Director of the Houston Restaurant Association, Ms. Melissa Stewart. And I'll tell you just a little bit about her. And welcome, Melissa.
Hi.
Melissa is a lifelong Houstonian with 25 years experience in a variety of public and private and nonprofit companies in executive leadership, operations, training, and program development. She joined the Greater Houston Restaurant Association, a chapter of the Texas Restaurant Association, in 2013 as their executive director. In this role, she supports and represents Houston restaurant members in their goals for advocacy and education to help make their business successful. So I think it's safe to say that Melissa knows what she's talking about when it comes to Houston area restaurants. And we want to give the best advice we can at this particular time. As you know, things happen very quickly with this virus pandemic. So we're giving you information that we know as of right now. So Melissa, hi.
Hi. Sorry about that. I'm having home technical problems. I was not meant to telework as well.
No problem. We're all adjusting to this new normal for now. So thank you for being with us. So
it's my absolute pleasure. Anything we can do. We really count on entrepreneurs in the restaurant industry. We know we have a ton of them in your chamber. And so we are here to help and share whatever information we have. And like you said, it changes really fast. So I'm just begging for forgiveness if something we say now is different in 20 minutes.
Yes, understood. And we accept that. So okay. Let's jump right in. So Melissa, how many restaurants would you say are in the Houston-Harris County area?
So Les, we probably have between 13,000, give or take, restaurants at any given time. That's individual units. And so those units, we employ over 300,000 people. Or we did up until about 2 weeks ago when we closed so many of the dining rooms. We know a lot of our community was laid off temporarily.
Yes. And that's unfortunate, but it's a real phenomenon for our times. We definitely wouldn't want people to work and not get paid, and certainly not congregate in close proximity to each other. So unfortunately, that's a side effect.
Well, what we're seeing right now is our elected officials and even each other, we need to make the hard decisions today so that this goes on as short a time as possible. Right. Everything we do to keep dragging it out and kicking it down, kicking the can down the field, that's not going to help us. And what we have case studies from other countries that shows us that does not pay off in the end, and it makes it much, much worse. So they're tough decisions today, but hopefully we'll be able to look back and think that they were the right ones.
Right. And everybody can just do their part by, just kind of dialing back a little bit and saying, what can I do to help? What can I do to contribute to this? And especially if I had an older parent or a sibling that I didn't want to expose this virus to, I think if we adopted that mindset, as far as that is concerned, it would get us a lot further. So what has been the reaction since we've gotten this call from the mayor to shut down inside dining? What has been the reaction of your members since we've gotten that mandate?
Just a lot of scrambling. Some restaurants look really similar. If you already had a drive-through concept, not that different. But if you were white linen, big celebration kind of location, this is a big difference from you, and it may not translate to go or pick up. And what we're seeing is a lot of our restaurants are doing their best, which is being creative and serving the community. And so you may have noticed that your favorite Tex-Mex restaurant isn't offering 37 combo plates, they're ordering 3. You have 3 that you can choose from. Or you may have an option where they're putting out the sides and you do your own protein, or just lots of different things, because each restaurateur is trying to keep as many people on the payroll as they can and recognize that rent, electricity, and a lot of other obligations didn't stop just because the dining rooms got closed.
Right.
But with all that said, the nice thing that I can say about restaurants in the middle of this kind of viral pandemic is restaurants know how to be safe. Everybody who works in the restaurant that touches food has had to have a food safety certification. So when you're thinking about, is it safe to get to go? Is it safe to, go pick it up? Probably some of the safest things you'll touch, because everything within that environment is based on safety and best practices. So we didn't just have to learn them. We've done them forever.
Do we have you, Melissa?
Maybe a pharmacy or a grocery store. Not Carol,
we're having a few technical.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
Okay. No, go ahead. If you could.
So I'm not sure how much you heard, but and essentially, when you order from a restaurant, you're ordering from people who've got food safety certification,
right,
and they've had it for quite a while. It's not new to us, so it should be very safe. Not that you don't want to practice all the good practices that we're talking about, but feel confident in it, because this is our daily life. We know food safety.
Right, right. And I think those who are not, when we go to these establishments, there are regulations that have to be followed, and they would have to be followed in or out of a pandemic, correct? So I think we can rest assured that at least the very basics as far as food safety are being followed.
Absolutely. This is the industry that already knew how to wash their hands all the time.
Right. And we trusted them to wash their hands all the time.
Yes,
Houston has so many restaurants. We go out and eat all the time. So why should we stop trusting them now?
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that we should see more and more is the restaurants are really set up. You've got the airlock windows and the system set up where you're not even coming in contact with a human if you go pick up food. But that might give you that mental break you need to get back into isolation at your house.
Yes.
So, into your car, safe space, go pick it up, staying safe the whole time, get back out. You saw a little bit of different scenery and you have something delicious.
Yes. Yeah. And I love it, because yesterday I took a little break and stepped out and got something to eat. And it was really refreshing to do so. Really.
It is. I think, Houston, we're car people.
Yes.
That's our natural habitat. And we start going into a little bit of withdrawal. It's up to all of us to really flatten that curve. And you can do that picking up food at a restaurant. And I think you can answer a couple of different needs, both that semi-mental social need, but also in a really safe way. What we don't really want is folks to take a grocery trip or a trip to the pharmacy for an excursion, because that's too many people. There's just a lot of different shared air and stuff. In your car, drive through, pick up, you're safe. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. So not necessarily unnecessary trips, but the necessary ones, make them count. Make them count.
That's correct. That's correct.
So are you seeing or getting any feedback from restaurants that don't have a drive-through or wouldn't necessarily have delivery services, how they might be adjusting?
So we see a couple of things. One is you can sign up with a delivery service. Now, if you have not worked with them in the past, you need to be prepared that there's a little bit of revenue share. So, employing one of them, there may be a cost that you need to be really cognizant of. But most restaurants they put a tent out front, a couple of tables just for organization, some cones, and a couple of signs. It really can lend itself to it very easily. It's very adaptable to the whole system. Highly recommend, if you're not already doing online ordering, to have a system in place where people can order online so they can pull up the food's already ordered and paid for. So you, again, are just limiting that contact if you can. If you choose, one of the things that we know some folks have chosen is, hey, I want to keep my whole staff on. I'm just going to turn everyone into a delivery driver. You can do that. call your insurance company. There's very specific riders that you need to make sure are on there before you just turn everybody loose with a logo shirt and a clipboard. Be really thoughtful about how you do that. It's not impossible. We know that restaurants have been their own delivery services for years and years and years, but you can't do it without engaging your professionals. And the one for this one is going to be your insurance professional.
Yes. And would you kind of expound about how important insurance is, having insurance is at this time?
Absolutely. When you're in business, you have to do so many things and you pay so many bills. Hold on to your insurance. If you were told that your interruption of business insurance, if you bought that and they're like, oh, it's not covered, don't give up on it. Hold on to it, because we're absolutely working up at the legislative level to do something to see if we can get that to kick in. It's a little bit beyond my technical expertise, but I know we are working to see what we can do. If you have not called your insurance company, call them and just say, just have a conversation. What's going on? Do they got any advice for you? If you are in a situation where you're 100% going dark for 2 weeks because it just doesn't make sense for you to do takeout, maybe you're an all buffet restaurant, right? Where it's really all dine in or nothing. Talk to your insurance agent. You bought that you can't use that you may be able to utilize better.
Yes. So it's really a matter of making sure you keep your professionals close, your professional advisors, your attorney, your insurance broker. Can you talk about how important that is to not let those people go at this time and get their advice?
It really is important. One of the nice things is everybody who's calling is probably calling with the same question. So it should help that you're not having to have somebody learn on your dime, so to speak. But what gets really dangerous in these situations where we're just desperate for any kind of good news, we'll listen to anybody who tells us what we want to hear. Don't do that. Call the person who you're paying, because they're going to tell you what you need to hear, what the rules are, that you need, the accountant, your lawyer. If you use a third-party HR company, if you use if you're using a paychecks company, they may have some, kind of advice or referencing information. But there's value to keeping these folks around. There's a reason that they're the professional. You already have 100 things on your plate. Elaborate a little bit further and say, don't be afraid to call a government office and get help from them. If you are in a situation where you need to, do I lay people off? Do I furlough? Do I cut their hours? What's going to be ultimately best for me and them? Call the Texas Workforce Commission. They're nice people. They so want to help. Call them, be nice. They're just as stressed and overworked as everyone else, and they're in a panic too. But if you call nicely, ask nicely for what you need, you should be able to get that response. And if maybe the first person you spoke to didn't exactly get what you need, let's try again. We are all having really stressful days. Don't be intimidated to call and reach out and see what you can find. What I would ask you to do is the same thing that we're hearing from the mayor and the judge, is track down where you're getting your information. Just because your cousin's brother, sister-in-law worked for a law firm 2 years ago, she may not be the best person to give you good information. Make sure the source of your information is accurate. Facebook, Wikipedia, Nextdoor, those are interesting ways to share information, but they may not be the facts you need when you're making business decisions.
Right. And so the entrepreneurs should not be afraid to contact their professionals and check those sources, because the amount of money you spend right now versus what you could pay upon bad advice or information could really be a huge difference. And just going
Absolutely
up front. Yeah.
No one's expected to be an expert on what to do during a pandemic. Thank goodness. Right?
Right.
We don't want to be good at this. We want it to be a little unusual and a little uncomfortable. Call folks. They may or may not know the answer, but give them the chance to get it. Give yourself the chance to get the best information possible. It's amazing. And anybody who went through Harvey probably knows there's a couple of different times where you make a decision and it's just pivotal. You said this, but you should have done this, or you missed this deadline and it really cost you money, time, effort, heartache.
Yeah.
Take advantage. Don't hide from it. just face it, everybody is really working in a very comparable situation, and everyone's heart's open. They're stressed, but they're ready to help.
Right, exactly. Stressed but ready to help. I mean, this is a real time, real talk conversation. So we want to give you all the truth about what we're dealing with so that going forward, when we come out of this, you'll be equipped to do so. So Melissa, I want to backtrack a little bit to when you mentioned about some of the restaurants setting up tents outside. What are some of the food safety, um, um, I guess, precautions that these restaurants are taking or have to take when they set up like that?
So we always have to make sure that everything, like food has to stay at temperature. That's always a big thing. If you're ever dealing with food, is it at temperature, at temperature, at temperature. The thing we're seeing a lot of is we want to make sure that that the containers that they're in are sealed, that they're safe, especially if we're putting them in a third-party delivery person's.
Yeah.
We're using a lot of where we staple the bags or sticker the bags so nobody's fingers can touch them. Excuse me.
Good practice.
That's right. I got to keep it up. So those, I mean, I think those are really important things. You'll see a lot of the folks wear the gloves that they change frequently. They have the hand sanitizer. They're trying to touch things as little as possible. If you have to pay on site, carry a pen with you. Use your own pen. I mean, there's just little things that you can do that make sense. I would ask, though, if it hasn't already occurred to you, if you're able to, when you go out to these restaurants, try and tip as generously as possible. That really can help with. I can only eat so many entrees, but I know I can turn that into a tip instead, and that's that helps the folks on the front line.
Right, and I think that it keeps the restaurants open to be able to serve a certain set number of entrees, because when you get, and you can certainly please jump in, when you have to focus on serving 12 dishes versus 3, I mean, the manpower and the labor involved in that, when you cut down to the 3, is much easier to deal with. And so can you talk about how that really will help our restaurants to stay open and, ask patrons to be patient?
Sure. Yeah. So one of the things is some dishes just don't travel well. I mean, they just don't. They don't, especially when you start thinking of your more formal sit-down dinners. There's a presentation, there's a layout, there's, if you like your steak a really certain way, it may not taste the same from bag to car to home to plate. So it helps the restaurants and helps their customer satisfaction to kind of make those judgments. But equally, they know that they can provide a better value. So you're seeing some people do a dinner for 4 package or sort of a set menu. The goal is, of course, things that travel well, that are going to taste good once they travel, that can be prepared reasonably easily. And then just because we're in sort of a uncertain time, we want to be sure it's ingredients that we know that we can consistently count on.
Yes, yes. So there is thought going into how many dishes can be prepared.
Yes.
And so for the entrepreneurs who are concerned about whether or not they're going to have enough offerings, if their customer base is going to be upset or not, this is a practical solution that we all are going to have to adapt to.
Absolutely. And think about what's going to work best for you. What are your favorites? What do you get the best return on your investment? It's something a little bit better margin. Because there's some things on the menu that we know you put them on there because people want them, but you're not really making very much, but this thing does a little bit better. Maybe you do lean towards those ideas. What can you prepare well? What's going to travel well? What's going to keep your customers happy? What you don't want to do is have somebody who thinks they're reaching out to help you stay in business get a meal that they're not happy with, because that kind of is a double whammy, right? Consider even doing, a daily special. The capability of your kitchen. So maybe you do Mondays is going to be meatloaf, and Tuesdays we're going to do the turkey legs, and Wednesdays we're doing enchiladas. I mean, that's okay too. Put it out there, let your customers know.
Mm-hmm. So that's where a good social media campaign can come into play, letting your customers know ahead of time, hey, we're open for business. We need your support. At this time, support us with this menu. And then just take it from there. so we can see
Absolutely. Get out there, get in front of it. Consider doing a comeback kind of thing too.
Yes.
So one of the things that we're seeing is, hey, here's 20% off when we're back, to come in the dining room, or come when our dining room reopens, have a dessert on us. Thank you for your patronage. So again, you don't want to give yourself out of business, right? So be careful with it. Know what your margins can take, but those are the things that build customer loyalty. And, do what your customers really are trying to be loyal to you, especially you know where you're at. Are you hard to get to? Were you somewhere that everybody ate lunch because they had offices there, but your office customers are making the trip in because they want to, take care of you? Recognize that. And, it's just a scary time for a lot of folks. So try and take care of your employees, try and be reasonable. And the biggest thing is communication. If you're going to limit your hours, which makes sense, right? Well, put it out there. Put a huge sign. Don't make anybody guess if you're open or not.
Right. Because everyone's so stressed, they're not going to want to take that extra time to figure out anyway. So the easier we can make it for our customers, the better.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to do that. Our goal is to get you on the other side of this.
Right.
We want to be reopened and full and going. What do we need to do in a triage, make sense way right now to get there? Because this will end. This is not forever. So how do we make good choices today that gets us to tomorrow?
Right. Absolutely. And they may be hard choices, but they'll be necessary choices to get us to
They are, and there's no good time to make a hard choice. But if you know it's coming, be honest with yourself, be honest with your team, make the best choice that you can looking long term. Because that's, as an owner, that's who you are. You're sort of the adult or the parent in the room. Yeah. You have to make the tough choices. And, that's where talking to professionals might help you, because you may think the best thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut everybody's hours in half. But the better thing might have been to lay off 3 people, let 3 people keep their full hours so that 3 of them can go get unemployment and collect unemployment. And that ended up being better money for both groups.
Yes. And those are exactly the types of tips we would expect from the Houston Restaurant Association. So anyone out there, if you are not a member, please join, because this type of information is what you avail yourself of when you join the Houston Restaurant Association. I wanted to ask, just talking about safety, sanitation, that whole piece. Have you heard any conversation or chatter about restaurant owners maybe taking temperature checks or screening food workers before they come into work or start working?
So usually we're a little careful about this because that seems pretty invasive. But there are extreme times. We've talked with the EEOC. So you should make good choices for public safety, but be mindful of what you're doing, right?
Right.
If you're going to take temperatures, be sure you have the non-touch one. That makes sense. Be consistent. You can't say, oh, you coughed and I don't really like you, so you go home, but you're my favorite and you get to say. So the rules are always the rules, and make sure you're clear with your team, make sure they know what to expect, and make it a safe place. If they don't feel healthy, if they're coughing or they're just, something feels weird, or maybe they came in contact with someone who they know has now tested positive, give them a safe space to tell you the truth and make a good choice. That's where we run into trouble, is where people don't feel like they can be honest, and then we're 3 days down the road and there's a bigger problem. Right. So yes, you can take temperatures. Yes, you can ask if they're having any symptoms. Yes, you can ask them to not come in if they're having symptoms. Just make sure you're clear about your rules, you're consistent about them, and then just for morale's sake, really make sure people feel safe to give you an honest answer.
Right. And I think that's important to show the other employees who may or may not be infected or not be sick that you're going to be fair across the board with everyone concerning this, and that you care about their safety as well. So this might be an opportunity for them to, again, lean on their professionals, your HR person, your attorney, about, let's develop some protocols, about how to deal with employees with these, in these particular situations. It sounds like that would be an excellent piece of work for them to work on and supply to the restaurant owner.
Absolutely. And, you know, the I think some of the best practices that you would do during regular business are still best practices for now. Be honest, tell people up front, no surprises. You know, all those things are things that you would have done before. You should still be doing them.
Yes, yes. And this might be an excellent time for people to kind of brush up on what they were going to. You know, we always think about, well, I'll get to that employee handbook and update it, or I'll get to our safety measures and update it. But this might actually be a good time to do that and then some, because no one that I've talked to in business ever considered that we would be part of a pandemic.
Absolutely. And that's the thing is, you're going to have some gaps in your day. Are you using them productively? Do you feel like, how do you come on the other side? And that looks different for different people. But, if you can use this time to get yourself better prepared and shore up your walls, for as we go forward, it's going to be better for you. It's not necessarily a silver lining. That's really hard to get to at the moment, but I agree. That's my team and I are working on a lot of those things. Is how do we clean up some databases? How do we, but there's always a personal call that we haven't made that we want to make. It's a great time to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you heard about any resources that restaurants who are looking at maybe I'm going to have to shutter my doors in the next 30 days, have you heard of anything out there that they can take advantage of?
So the SBA is offering a number of low interest loans. Texas is a qualified state. Have some patience if you're going to do it. My understanding is we have completely overwhelmed the system, as you might expect. We have a lot of businesses that are in a lot of pain right now. So SBA is always the first one. And, don't be afraid of that SBA money. This crisis situation is different than maybe a typical SBA application. So if you've applied in the past and it didn't work, don't hesitate to try again. And then you may be saying, oh, I don't know if I need the money. SBA is usually really low interest for taking advantage of the opportunity, because you might find yourself needing it, and having it available might be helpful.
Yes.
We're waiting to hear. There's some big, I'm calling them a bailout bill. That is not the right terminology, but there's some bills coming down from the federal level that we're expecting to infuse cash into small businesses and put cash in people's pockets. Certainly if you're in a restaurant, you need people to have cash in their pockets. So these things should help. But until, my experience has always been, when something's big and complicated, until I have it in hand, I don't start expecting it. So we will know something will happen. We'll know what it looks like pretty soon. And then as it's deployed is the kind of the next step. So watch how many in the basket. I think there's definitely something coming. I just don't know how quickly or how thoroughly.
Okay. And I'm sorry, you were breaking up a little bit. You said watch what?
So I would watch for there's the federal bill that's going through. It's held up in the Senate at the moment, looking to give money to businesses and people, maybe cash in pockets type stuff. Yes. Keep an eye on that. We'll know more when it passes the Senate, or let me say it this way. When it's signed by the president, that means that it's a done deal. Then we'll know what to expect, and then we can start figuring out how soon we can expect it.
Okay. And speaking of legislation, you mentioned earlier that the Restaurant Association is looking at some insurance issues at the state level. Are there any other things that you all are working on?
So we're trying to do it's a myriad of things. It's amazing how many things all of a sudden we need to help with and can help with. So one is obviously the big packages at the federal level. We're also working at the state level to make sure, from a restaurant standpoint, that restaurants are identified as essential businesses, so that if we go into a stay-at-home order, that our restaurateurs can still, and their employees can still go out and provide services. About 52% of the food people eat in our area is coming from a restaurant. We're already having enough of a challenge at our grocery stores. And we know a lot of our community, unfortunately, lives in sort of a food desert situation where if they didn't have the independent restaurants, they wouldn't have access to hardly any food easily. So that's one of our big pushes right now. We've worked to amend some of the TABC rules. One of them being that if you had a mixed beverage license, you'll remember starting last September-ish, you could start delivering manufacturer sealed beverages, beer, wine, that kind of thing. When we closed the dining rooms down, we went to the governor and we said, hey, help us out. And so now you can, if you could deliver it before, you can put it in a bag and a to-go now under your same license. We're continuing to kind of push that to see if we can get it opened up a little bit more so that the folks can maybe mix you up a margarita and seal it and, let you take it home to enjoy. So that's a little bit of an innovative thing that we are trying to do to help entertain the customers, because that helps. That's a little bit of a mood breaker in a good way. But also we know it's a good revenue enhancer. Can we work with the insurance companies to make sure that this is classified as something that was an official interruption of business and that those policies will pay out? Every day we're trying to find something new, and we're just really trying to do everything we can to keep money in the hands of owners and operators so they can keep their team employed, because those are the things that will get us to the other side.
Yeah, right. Agreed. And has there been any conversation about fear as far as the supply chain to restaurants, being able to get food and other items?
There's conversation about it, but I don't know that it's real. So that's one of those things where we're in our brain and we're trying to figure out what to be scared of next. So now we're going to convince ourselves that nobody's going to go pick the lettuce, and we're not going to have anybody to work at the stockyards and stuff like that. Those are businesses that are included as essential businesses. We are good. Our challenge at the moment is, in Houston, we're really good at go to the grocery store and buy enough stuff for a couple of weeks because a hurricane's coming and everything might be closed. So this is different because we're like, you don't need to stock up. We're not closing the grocery stores, but we're in that mentality of, if I see it, I better buy it because I might not be able to get it. And so the grocery stores, I think, are just having a little bit of a challenge shifting to that paradigm. But got the supplies coming. We're still making toilet paper. It's still going to show up. Our little gut clench of we need to do something really kicked in there. But there's thing that I think will indicate we're an interruption. I think the challenge is just specialty items might be a problem. So if you have a really special soft shell crab you love, that might not make it to market this, or something unique like that. But by and far, the staples, there's no problem that I'm aware of.
So we don't have to worry about running out of toilet paper. We don't have to worry about, we are going to have to worry about sanitizer. But at the end of the day,
Tito's is making it now, so we're getting there. Tito's is coming back to the plate. There's like, okay, now we got it. We are going to do sanitizer. Some of this, the reaction will catch up. So sanitation, we're seeing companies who have the facilities, like the liquor distillers, shifting and making the sanitizer. So we've got that coming. All of this will catch up. You have to remember, we've been an on-demand consumer for so long because we had just really good transportation systems and ways of delivering. So we said, we don't want to keep everything in a warehouse. We're just going to produce it on demand. It'll get produced, it'll go on a shelf, it'll get bought. When we have these runs on the shelves, we don't have those big warehouses to pull on anymore because we kind of changed how we do things, but we'll catch back up.
Yeah. And so not to worry, things will work out. We will have the supplies of what we need to have. So everyone can relax on that point.
Everybody relax. You don't need 4 packages of toilet paper. Just get whatever you would usually buy. Now, the challenge is, of course, now some of us, all of a sudden with our kids out of school and, I was used to using somebody else's hand soap and air conditioning and paper towels for 8 hours a day. So we are seeing that you probably do need a little more than usual because you're in your home more than usual, but not panicky.
Yeah.
We don't need to We don't need a war chest of toilet paper.
Right, right. And other people do need it. So
Yes.
there you go. So have you considered what the economic impact of this pandemic is going to be once we come out of it? What we're seeing.
It's going to be awful. I mean, I have to believe that every day we're doing everything we can to keep people going and to push through it. But it's going to be awful. There's just no two ways about it. Hopefully the help we get from our government will be enough to make it less awful, but we just don't know where we're going to end up. We don't know what's going to, when we talk about flattening the curve, there's so many reasons for that. And that's so that we have a little pain now and, less dramatic pain on the backside. So, we just don't know how long this will last, how far spread it's going to be. The bigger both of those numbers are, the harder it will be for some of us to come through the other side. We know Harvey, that took out some of our entrepreneurs. It just did, and it's awful. But that's what happened. They were maybe running a little bit lean, and you go from running lean to running out.
Yeah.
So I unfortunately I fear that we will see that, but there's just not enough information yet. We're really trying to. This is not Harvey. It's different. We're able to do some things differently. So hopefully, we don't know if it'll be the same, better, bad, or worse. We just don't know. But we do know we're strong enough to get back online.
Could you repeat that? We had a little bit of a breakup. You said we know it'll be strong enough to.
I'm sorry. I think everybody's using their home internets, and there's just not enough bandwidth to go around. I was just saying, we know it's going to be tough. We know we're going to lose people, but we also know that we are a very strong community. We will make it through. We will come through the other side. It may look a little bit different, but we will get there. It's just a matter of, what depends on how bad and how long it takes to get to the other side.
Right, exactly. If a business owner has to shut down, let's say worst case scenario, are there any steps you think they need to take or advice you can give about selling off assets, letting go of employees?
So this is where I would say spending money with your attorney is well spent, and your accountant. These are hard decisions, but they don't get less hard by not getting good information. So if you find yourself and you say, okay, this is about where I'm at, and here's sort of my choices, talk to the professionals, let them give you no, you're not as bad as you think, or yeah, it's as bad as you think, and make some good choices. What you don't want to do is take a bad situation and make it much worse by defaulting on things that you couldn't, or letters that you maybe needed to write, or that kind of thing.
Yes, exactly. So, and you don't want to wait too late as well.
No, you don't.
Go ahead and make the assessment right now.
Because there may be things that you can do now that feel really dramatic, but they preserve you long term. So,
right.
Every business is unique, but that's the thing is, this is not maybe the rattle in my car will stop rattling and it'll be all right. Go ahead and get the mechanic to check it out, see what's going on, and make a good choice.
Yes, exactly. Sooner rather than later. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, absolutely. I was just agreeing with you.
Yes. So, so Melissa, we appreciate your time. We're about to wrap up here. Just wanted to just get this last bit of advice from you. If we're in the worst case scenario and the city does have to shut down, it sounds like the restaurant industry is going to try to put restaurants into the essential the essential businesses that need to stay open. So how quickly would restaurant owners find that out if they actually fit into that category?
So it would come as part of the announcement. So they would say, we're going to this, and we have, it'll happen at this point. And so it'd be part of the announcement all at once.
Okay.
So we expect, the judge did a conference press conference this morning. We think we'll have another one maybe today, later today or tomorrow. But that's all part of the same announcement. It'll say essential businesses, and this is who we think are essential businesses.
Mm-hmm. And so essentially the way they're operating now wouldn't necessarily change. It would just
No,
continue.
we're trying to set it up so nothing has to change.
Okay. So you heard it here. The Houston restaurant.
That's our goal.
Yes.
We've already changed enough. When we shut the dining rooms down, that was enough change. We're, but we really do want that. And I can't say it would not change and become even different, but the goal right now is stay home if you don't need to be out. When you get out, be safe when you're out, get back home. The harsher we can be with each other right now, the shorter this will last.
Exactly. Well said, Melissa. And before we sign off, is there any other information that you want to give to our business owners regarding the Houston Restaurant Association?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. So one thing I think that I would just put out there is we would love to have you. It's a great networking thing. But for the interim, we've opened up our app. It's TX Restaurant. So you can find it on my webpage, or if you just look up the Texas Restaurant Association. We've taken down all the paywalls. So anybody who's a restaurateur can sign up on that. And we're pushing out all our notices to restaurants. And so if you haven't done that, we would really recommend that. There's so much news coming out. It comes out so quickly. That's one resource that you could use, and we would welcome you to take advantage of that.
Okay, excellent. And so, Melissa, thank you so much. Melissa Stewart, the Executive Director for the Houston Restaurant Association. Thanks so much for your time. And we would like
Thank you for having me, Carol. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we look forward to staying in touch with you as well as this situation unfolds. And so everyone, if you're not a member of the Houston Restaurant Association or the Greater Houston Black Chamber of Commerce, we welcome you because we want to serve you. Please make sure you stay tuned to all of our social media at Greater Houston Black Chamber and our website, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. We'll have updates as the information unfolds. Please make sure you pay attention to the Houston Restaurant Association's social media, get the app, look at their website as well. And also, please support the businesses that are part of the Houston Restaurant Association and also the Greater Houston Black Chamber of Commerce at our website, houstonbyblack.com. So this is Carol Guest, Chair of the Board for the Greater Houston Black Chamber of Commerce, ending our chamber chat for today, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you and stay safe.